Welcome, everyone. We're back. We're live. And it's the Heresy Lodge. Kizza, how are you?
Good to be here. Yeah, good to be here. We haven't. Good, bro. Good.
No. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting a bit of scrap code here.
That's it. The Mechanicum leaks just got to you. Uh-oh. We've lost Kieran. Come back.
No.
Can you hear us loud and clear?
I'm having everything repeated back to me.
Wow. Australian internet. Coming at you hard and fast.
Can we relaunch?
Kieran, maybe let's remove you. You can come back soon. See if that resets some stuff. All right, everybody. Today, me and Kieran are going live, and we're answering the mailbag. Kieran, how's your audio?
Good, bro. It's playing everything back about 3 or 4 seconds late. This is a nightmare.
That is not great at all. In that case, everyone watching at the moment, you get the show, warts and all, baby, warts and all. All right, Kizza, what have you been up to lately, bro?
Are we going to do this? I can hear you we can't do this. Can we just relaunch it? Is that possible?
We march forward. I tell you what, you run it, right? And I'll be back in a jiffy, see if it makes any difference.
I don't know what was happening there. I was just hearing Adam back again in my ears and myself 4 or 5 seconds after I'd spoken. I think it might be that Mechanicum slander from the other night. Not sure what Adam is doing right at the moment. I think he's going to try and rejoin us.
Whoop.
Adam, do you have let me have a look here. Darcy's just made a really good call. I think I had the YouTube open as well.
Oh no.
Rookie error. So it wasn't the Mechanicum stitching me up, it was just my lack of technical anything. So
that's it. Kieran, if we need to write you a stat line for this edition, bro, you got poor intelligence, okay? You're not a master of signals at all.
Failing those intelligence tests for sure. I need a cyber familiar for that +2. Yeah. Thanks, Darcy.
That's the pleasure of watching live because you get to show warts and all.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit of Darcy. He knows all the rules and he also knows what I'm doing wrong even when I'm not playing the game. So thanks for saving us there, bro.
Welcome to everyone in the comments as well. Thanks for joining. Kizza, we're answering the mailbag today.
We got a lot of questions.
So we put the feelers out there on Instagram today and yesterday. And we've had a lot of people write in with a bunch of different questions. Should we just jump straight in, Kieran? Or should we just maybe talk about what we've been up to lately?
Oh, we could have a quick preamble of what we've been doing. Have you been doing any hobby or?
Well, in the background for the channel, yes. For those wondering, We do have the Patreon channel coming. We've been bogged down in all the administrative back end stuff. We're on top of that stuff. Right? So it will be coming very, very soon, and we'll do an episode on it. And
lots of tutorials and everything. Yeah,
we'll make sure we get the announcements out there. That's what I've been doing. You lucky sod, have been painting a Saturnine. Give me your thoughts on the kit.
Well, to build one dude, it's over 40 pieces. That's the first thing.
Oh,
bro, it's mental. Like, we grew up where like a Space Marine had like the legs were one piece, the torso was two pieces. You had the two arms, a weapon, a head, a power pack, and two shoulder plates, and that's a Space Marine. And now, like, the legs, like the two legs together, are 14 pieces, and the arms are, I think like the main upper part of the arm is 3 pieces, and then the weapons are multiple pieces, and the torso is like a whole bunch of pieces. So I think it was over 40 pieces I counted by the time I was finished with that one model. So yeah, I don't know. Like, people love plastic kits because they're, I don't know, I suppose people think they're more approachable, but I love me resin. Like, I want like a tank that's like a side piece and another side piece. And if I have to do a little bit of green stuff filling and a little bit of like heat gun work, then I'm happy to do that rather than try to assemble like a billion little pieces into a kit.
How did you find the posability? Because a lot of the Saturnine I've seen on the internet, including the ones in the box, they're built like freaking gingerbread men.
Yeah, they're shocking. Yeah. I was a bit worried about that, but when I actually got them in hand, they are far more posable than most people have been demonstrating, especially the legs. The legs are quite posable, and you can do a lot with them. The feet come in multiple parts, so you can angle them, for stepping off or with a flat foot on the ground. The legs are kind of, the knees at the knee joint are fully kind of movable, and of course they're on a ball joint on the hip as well, which makes them very flexible. The arms, the torso, you can pretty much get no torsion in. Like, it can't twist at all. It's very locked in, which makes sense for that looking, that kind of armor. You don't want it at, an extreme angle or anything like that. The arms, I'm not a massive fan of the arms. The combat arm has similar flexibility to the leg, but the weapon arms, it's really just the ball joint at the shoulder and then like a little socket joint on the elbow for the weapon. And you can't really, it does lend itself to that gingerbread, like looking straight forward ahead kind of pose. If you try to turn it to the side a little bit, the weapon like ends up like coming in and like the leg will push it out, and it's just a bit more difficult. I think if they bring out a full close combat kit for the Saturnine with, a Powerfist on both sides, or a lightning claw, or some other sort of combat weapon, or even just smaller, like a combi bolter or something, I think they'll be far more posable and they'll look a lot better. But at the moment, yeah, it was definitely the arms that kind of gave me the most trouble, and the shoulder plates don't allow for that much like posability either. Really, they're quite, a little bit restrictive.
Do you think that the joints, like the ball joints, are kind of strange? Do you think it would have benefited from more of like the black armor, soft ribbed look?
I think it makes it easier for everyone at home just to assemble them, and they look like kind of okay. You don't have to think too carefully about lining things up with a ball joint. It gives you a bit more freedom in that regard. But personally, like aesthetically, I think it looks a bit shit. Like, it's a bit weird. Like, I'm not sure, like, how the arms go in there. Is the Space Marine just like inside like that, like, remotely controlling the limbs, or is he putting his arms through a ball joint? Like, how the hell does that kind of work? So yeah, aesthetically, I'm not a massive fan of it. And if I do get some myself, I'd like to convert them and see what I can do. And that'll be one of the things I would try to change, the joints, either give it that soft kind of look, or just, cover them up in some way, either with like robes or something, just to kind of get away from that kind of less natural looking mechanical ball joint. So yeah, I think it makes it easier for people to assemble. It's harder to fuck up when you're building it, but I don't think it looks as good. Yeah.
Absolute Moon Man makes a good point here. I would like the Saturnine guys a little more if they had a gun hand as opposed to the built-in bombard thing that they have. You agree?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. Like, they kind of look a bit like Dreadnoughts, right? The guns make them look like amputees. Like, it's cut off at the elbow and then it's a weapon. Like, if it was an underslung weapon, like under a fist or under an arm or a claw or something else, then I think it might look a bit more natural. But I don't even know like what a Marine really looks like inside that suit. So it just looks a bit strange. He's like a shrunk down Dreadnought more than a Terminator, really, in a way.
Yeah, interesting. All right, should we dig into the mailbag, Kieran?
Yeah, let's get stuck into it, bro. I think you had a good one to lead us off with.
Up on my phone, and maybe we could alternate. So I could go first, then you could go, and then we can answer that way, and we'll just try and smash through as many questions as we can. What do you think?
Sounds good, bro. Let's pump them out.
Hard and fast, and everyone in the chat, if you've got a question as well, make sure you type it in, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Yeah, we'll prioritize you guys in the chat as well.
We've got quite a deep question to kick us off here. Do you guys look back on the early days of Horus Heresy as the glory days, or are they ahead of us?
Yeah, okay. So I feel like personally for my hobby, my skills are always improving. So in that regard, the best days are ahead of me. I'm producing better and better models as I refine my skills. But I think for the heresy in general, I think the golden days are behind us. We're never going to get black books again, which is, for me, peak heresy, like the best thing about the heresy back then.
Yeah.
We used to have like a weekly kind of release schedule with like heresy Thursdays or whatever they were back then. And we also used to like, yeah, exactly, be collecting and painting our models while the heresy book series was still like coming out. So everything felt new. The storyline was progressing and new and interesting.
Yeah.
We were getting new kits all the time, and we were getting the black books, which are just the absolute pinnacle of heresy. So I don't think we'll ever have those factors again. Like, those were all quite specific to that time period. And maybe like if the game does really well, we'll go back to a period where we do get fairly regular releases. But as far as like the main book series is concerned and the black books are concerned, those are things that have happened in the past, and I don't think they're coming back. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Is it similar for you, or?
You make a good point about your hobby progressing and getting better. And that's obviously in a forward trajectory, right? So the best is yet to come in that regard. I think that I agree with that. And it's the same for me. I'm always finding new ways to kind of challenge myself to get better and to do more impressive things with my hobby. It's really it's interesting because we're playing a game that has a finite timeline now.
Mm-hmm.
Even from a Black Library perspective. I mean, I know there was the Scouring announcements for the new novel series that just happened a couple of days ago, which is very, very exciting.
And we've got a couple of questions I'll go on to after this about that. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then I think that when people reminisce about first edition, the game was still growing and there was still a great unknown about things yet to come. Theaters of war that haven't been explored, legions that hadn't been covered. No one knew what they were up to. And as we were playing through the first edition and through each black book, new stories were written in front of us, and it made the time very, very exciting because you had this kind of crossover of the fluff and the backstory for the legions and the heresy as a whole interlinked with the game and the rules. And now that story is encapsulated in two bookends, being the Horus Rising, and then you've got the End of the Death. That's the definitive series. That's Heresy now being put into a box in terms of narrative and the world. How many more things can you put in that don't seem like that they're crowbarred in? And a perfect example for me is the Saturnine stuff, if I'm completely honest. There is a slight retcon involved. The same way there was a slight retcon involved with Mark 6 armor to really crowbar this stuff in to then make it a main part of the game. So we are in two separate timelines with Heresy, I believe. And, it doesn't feel the same, but that's not to say that the time that we're in now won't be the best for Heresy either. I think that from what I've read of the rulebook, mechanically, the game could be in the best place it has been for a while now. And that's a very exciting thing. So even though we may have stagnated in terms of, let's call it the culture of Heresy, the stuff in the background and the periphery that makes Heresy special, when we reminisce about things like the Black Books, the actual game and the hobby and the models may be better. I definitely think the models are better. So that's where I'm sort of sitting at the moment.
Yeah. Talking about moving the timeline forward, we had a couple of questions about the Scouring. The first one was on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being completely, how badly is Games Workshop going to screw up the Scouring series? Who knows? Like, I think Chris Wright's writing the first one, right? So I've got some faith in him doing a good job. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to it. To be honest, I'm not too stressed out about it being a failure or being dodgy. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, if you go by Chris Wright's track record, he could be the best author. What do you think?
I don't think he is, but like, I also don't think he's got any bad ones. So yeah, he's very good.
Solid A tier.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Yeah, Scars, even the Valdor book.
I think ADB's like top level is higher, but I think Wright is more consistently high.
Very good. That is well put.
Maybe.
I'd agree.
Yeah. He's the Caesar Azpilicueta, 8 out of 8 every game.
Yep.
Yep. The second question was in regards to the Scouring. Would you have preferred them to go back to the Unification Wars rather than focusing on the Scouring?
Oh. Do you remember a couple of years ago when they announced the Siege of Terror novels and they interviewed Dan Abnett in like a video interview, and he was talking about, what you'd like to work on next and this and that. And he said at the time he would really love to work on a unification series. And from what I remember, he did hint that he had made some sort of pitch to Games Workshop about it. Now, I got really excited about this, and to a lot of other people, it seemed like a bit of a throwaway line. I think, going back to our last question, we could have that same level of excitement where things are being written and we're playing the game, and those two things could be happening concurrently once again. And I think that once Heresy does its dash, even though I would never like the Heresy to end, but let's say hypothetically it does its dash, I think Unification era could be amazing to explore, both from a novel perspective, to models to new rules. So that's what I'm personally looking forward to a little bit more.
Okay.
But hey, if we're getting more heresy, can't really complain. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'd be very happy with either the Scouring or the unifications. I can understand why Dan Abnett would want to do the unifications because it means he doesn't have to write about Space Marines.
Exactly. He's playing to his strengths.
He is, yeah. But personally, I love my Space Marines, so I'm looking forward to the Scouring. If we went back in time, I would like more Great Crusade kind of stuff. And even to be fair, even early Crusade or late Unification, because I think they include like the conquest of like the solar system as unification. So a book about like the conquest of like Luna, or going to Mars or Saturn and all that kind of stuff. I'd be totally down with that. Some early Space Marines, some early Abaddon stuff. Like, I'd be definitely down for that. I'm not super hyped up on like, barbarian warlords running around in their Mad Max cars on Terra, but be interesting to see. Like, I'd be happy with any of that kind of stuff.
Well, not only you think about the factions they could do in a unification setting. They could have obviously the Techno Barbarians. You could have the Thunder Warriors. You've got the Legio Custodes. You've got Proto Astartes. You've got the Gene Cults on Luna. You've got Mechanicum on Mars. That could be like, a separate sort of splinter sort of thing happening. So there is a lot there. There is a lot there just going off that stuff.
Yeah. There's heaps. They can go in either direction and do a lot.
The Scouring is going to be interesting, I think, because we've already had a lot of those 40K books set in that M34, M35 sort of time period. So it's going to be interesting to see where things start to fit in chronologically after they fill out that space after the heresy. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not super familiar with what's been released for 40K in the last few years, but I think like the first like couple of millennia after heresy haven't really been touched that much, as far as I know.
Not the first couple, but I think the Araman novel starts in M34 or M35. You've got,
so that's still like a 4,000 to 5,000. That's still like half of like the time to 40K almost. Like, that's heaps of time.
Yeah. It is. It is. So it's going to be cool to see where that sort of stuff fits in chronologically, I think.
ADB's Black Legion stuff is like the end of the Scouring. I think it starts then. So like when the Emperor's children steal Horus's body and try to clone him.
Yep.
So yeah, it'd be a bit of the clone wars and the slave wars and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think there's heaps of time. There's heaps of space in there. That's like 4,000, 5,000 years of time to fit books in. So that's plenty. That's plenty of stuff to do. And we'll find out what happened to the Primarchs and what they did and that kind of thing. Should we get on to some questions from the chat?
Let's do that, and then we'll go back to our mailbag.
Yeah.
Miss Valkia, how, when you're approaching painting a new squad or whatever, do you turn around and approach making it unique yet uniform with the rest of your army?
I think for me, like, obviously uniform, like it needs to be the same. Like, my skills do kind of develop throughout a project to a certain degree, but I'm still making sure that I'm using the same recipes and the same techniques as much as I can to keep it all consistent. So fortunately, like for me, I do a lot of random models that aren't related to any kind of specific project, and I can use those to try new things and to learn new skills and to scratch itches and paint colors that I otherwise wouldn't be able to paint. But when I'm doing an army project, I like to try and keep it as uniform as possible.
I think alternative schemes could be a really good way to make a unit look unique, but also sort of still fit within the core identity and palette of your force. So command squads, for example, you can swap out the pauldron colors or helmet colors, and you can still make them stand out and be unique within your army, but they won't look out of place at all. So I like to sort of move my colors around the suit of armor sometimes, just to mix things up. I know, like, for the pyroclasts that are on my desk at the moment, I'm going to be doing a alternative color scheme for them as well. They're not going to be the same uniform colors as the rest of my salamanders army. So I've chosen to do something different on them, and hopefully I can start painting them soon.
But there'll be elements on those models that ties them back in, right?
Of course,
as well as the basing, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an intentional choice. Yeah.
Will, what's your favorite generic Legion unit with Vanguard? Some Legions are lacking, so it'd be good to hear your thoughts. It is pretty interesting. It seems that the traders have got a lot more Vanguard than the Loyalists. I haven't had a really good read over everything Legion-wise, but generic Legion units, what has Vanguard outside of something like an assault squad or a veteran assault squad?
The regular Terminators. So I think the regular Terminators have got 3.
Yep.
Do the assault vets have 3 as well?
Yep.
And the regular assault marines have 1.
Have 2.
2?
I think they're Vanguard 2, the assault marine.
Yeah. So out of those ones, I don't know. Like, obviously, vets are pretty tasty with weapon skill 5, which is like really important.
Yeah.
Having that weapon skill 5 instead of 4, but they also only have a 3+ save, and they're going to be running around without a transport. And with the way apothecaries are now, they're going to be a lot squishier, and no artificer sergeant either. So I don't know. I'm tempted to say that the regular Terminators are still the way to go, like a Cataphracti squad if you've got a transport for it, and to have a character or 2 in that squad that can do the weapon skill 5, weapon skill 6 or 7 with Paragon of War kind of work, and then just rely on some power fists hitting back and relying on that 2+ toughness 5, 4+ invuln. I think that's kind of the way I'm leaning at the moment. But we haven't played any games yet, so we're just guessing here.
We are just guessing. It does seem that Terminator is going to be very, very slow. So we're going to have to, just to see and experiment with different delivery systems as well.
I think the assault vets will be good for throwing against, isolated unit, like troop choices on objectives. But if you want to go for an objective that's got a few units around it that's well protected, then I think the Terminators, just the added survivability, is the way to go, even though they're going to be hitting more elite units on 5s. I think that's the way to go.
This one's from Melterbombed. What a great handle name. Good morning, lads. What is a unit /army/project you're looking forward to working on in the next edition, sight unseen? Anything you want to see rules for first, or do you not care? I am personally very excited to be working on a Cassian Dracos conversion that I've had planned for a while now. And I'm very glad that he will be in the Legacies book. Fingers crossed he's not hot garbage, rules-wise. Even if he is, I don't care. It gives me a chance to run him and run him as the character himself and not just a Leviathan stand-in or something like that, which would be kind of a little bit weak. What about you, Kieran? Anything that sort of stands out for you?
I don't know. I'm still trying to decide what to do. I have been looking at the possibility of using a few more flyers in this edition. I've always wanted to have some Storm Eagles. I feel like that's the most Emperor's Children thing possible. Have some air cav zooming in to save the day. And now that they can come in first turn and that they're more survivable, I think that might be something I look into. I'm trying to find a way to improve the reserve role because, unfortunately, the way I read it, the Master of Signal and the other units with the bonus, like the Damocles, don't do that, because for aerial reserves, it specifically says that any rules that affect reserve rolls have to specifically mention aerial reserve, and none of those items do. They only talk about regular reserves. So coming in on turn 1 is still really good. So I might give it a go regardless. But yeah, I think flyers are definitely something I'm looking into more. And I've got that Xiphon that I bought from you a while ago as well that I'm keen to do.
Yep, thank you for taking
They
it
do-
out of my pile of shame.
And they do feel very kind of Emperor's Children. I'm just not sure if I want to keep going with the Emperor's Children into the next edition. I'm still up in the air whether I want to start a new project or build on what I already have and maybe take the army in a different direction.
Well,
Which was
I think
not something I was considering before, but now I'm considering that, like just expanding the army. Yeah.
I do think that flyers in that purple scheme will look shit hot.
Yeah, a bit of purple on there, bit of gold, bit of white. It'll look sick, I reckon.
Pardo, the main man. My question is, did you think a new edition was needed?
I don't know. I personally have really enjoyed second edition, and I recognize that there are issues with it, but I adjusted to them fairly well, I think. And I would have probably preferred an FAQ, to be honest, and I would have been fine with that. Having said that, what I've read so far of the main rulebook rules, I quite like, so I'm happy with that as well. It is a bit more to learn, which is annoying. I think I still probably would have preferred a slightly amended second edition, but I'm looking forward to giving the rules a go. It's more the army building and the levers that give me the issues. But apart from that, I am looking forward to playing third edition and trying out the core rules at least. But yeah, I don't know if we needed another edition, especially that soon after the last one. And that's kind of what puts me off the most, the risk of this happening every 2.5 years.
It did feel soon. However, I think I'm a big subscriber in thinking that Heresy 2 was just a way to migrate everyone into this third edition. Can you imagine jumping from first edition to third edition, and what a massive step that would have been? So I think the window of second edition was still familiar enough for old Heresy gamers to get re-enthused, but mainly it was just driving plastics, migrating the game to a plastic game and getting out of the sort of ancient resin ways that we were doing things. And I think that third edition now is more of the place that they wanted to take the game once the Specialist Game Studio took over. I mean, to turn a ship around, it takes a long, long time. And you got to take sort of baby steps to get there. So it is understandable that it has taken this long to sort of get where we are now. But now that we're here, I feel like if this is the game that they kind of envision for the future, I would almost hedge my bets that it might last longer than 3 years, or at least this set of core mechanics lasting longer than 3 years. Especially when you take into consideration, the sheer number of journals that need to come out, not only focusing on new theaters of war, but also focusing on specific legions themselves. So that gives you a really long timeline and long release schedule where all this stuff can live under the rules umbrella that has been written now. So I don't really buy into the 3-year cycle sort of narrative at this stage. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Pardo goes on to say that he thinks that, a 3-year cycle is too short for a game like Heresy. I completely agree, especially with the target audience that Heresy's aimed at. It seems more like, that sort of, not casual, but lifestyle journeyman style game, where you don't always have to be up with the latest and do constant homework full time just in order to sort of keep up with the game. So it feels very more aligned to the customer base in that regard. Prefer a 4 or 5 year cycle. Yes, I agree. Even if they did go the initial 3 years and then release that big FAQ and keep that for another 3 years, and to have a full 6 year cycle before they rewrite the core mechanics of the game, I think that would be terrific.
Yeah.
And
it's
he just goes on
interesting.
to say that said, he does feel that like second edition had become very stale, and I think I'm in that camp as well. Second edition had a very fun exploration phase in the first sort of 12 to 18 months. But in the last 12 months, when rumors started circulating, when we didn't get that FAQ that we were asking for, that really addressed key issues of the game, the meta didn't naturally sort of progress. And I think that's what kind of made the game stale. Every game that I played kind of felt samey in a way. So I don't know if your experience is similar, Kieran, but that's how I sort of feel.
I think that just happens naturally with the game, right? I had that same experience in first edition as well. I don't think it was like specific to second edition. There were definite parts of the game that were quite unbalanced and powerful, so I suppose they came up again and again, and that might have led to the feeling of it being stale. But I feel like that's just a natural part of the game, being out for so long. Like in first edition, it was the same kind of thing. I've noticed that in the old world, they do more regular FAQs and more serious FAQs that, they don't address everything, and people are always asking for more, of course. But it feels like whoever's in charge of the rules for the old world has been doing a much better job than whoever's in charge of the heresy rules as far as keeping up with the community feedback and what the community is asking for. So it'll be interesting to see if third edition goes down that kind of route, or if it stays the way it has, where we kind of don't hear anything and then we get a small FAQ and then we don't hear anything again until the next edition. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that goes.
Jules 77, good day from the Highlands. Good day to you, sir. Do you think with the launch of the Scouring, hobbyists will theme their armies in that timeline while playing the Horus Heresy game? Yes, and I think it's a great idea. I love traders. Mm-hmm. Kieran, what do you think?
Definitely. I think I've been leaning kind of towards that kind of way anyway, even before the Scouring was announced. Like the way the Trader Legions are described in the later Heresy books, like they're pretty witchy poo by that stage. You can include a lot of like Chaos Space Marine parts, and if I did like a Night Lord's army, a World Eater's army, a Word Bearer's army, Sons of Horus, Emperor's Children, any of those armies, I'd be using quite a bit of the Chaos Space Marine equivalent ranges. I wouldn't be using those straight models from 40k, like just ported over without any conversions. I'd be converting them heavily, but I'd be making like a big use of a lot of those pieces. So I definitely kind of support those armies. I hope we don't start seeing like full armies of Mark 7, but I'm sure people will start bringing a bit of that into their loyalist armies, and I'm totally okay with that. But yeah, we'll see.
Even if we have a slight little creep of more of the company structure come into people's armies, it'd be really cool to see that. Let's say like these Ultramarines that I'm doing now, these are Iron Snakes.
That'd be really sick.
And they've got the symbolism and that sort of stuff. So it'd be really cool and flavoursome to sort of see that stuff creeping in, I think.
I'd love that. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think we've got a couple more here before we can go back into the mailbag.
Yep.
Traven 158. Do you think the rules for 3.0 are going to encourage more competitive rather than narrative, list building and gaming?
No. I think with the old Force Org and the old rules and everything, we had everything pretty nailed down and like refined to a fine art of people could be very competitive using those rules because they understood them very well. I think there will be a skill gap that will develop in the start of third with people who make the transition quickly from second to third and understand the rules, and then people who have less time to spend on the game and will struggle to come across into the new edition. So it may seem that there's a bigger gap between some players, but I'm sure that this kind of this edition will be just as competitive as any other edition. It's what you do with the rules and how you play them. Like, you can be as competitive or as uncompetitive as you like. It's down to the individual player and the kind of community setting that they play in. I don't think that these rules are going to be specifically like abusable per se. And like that's just me saying that. I've got no in-depth knowledge here. I've been reading through the rules. I don't, I'm struggling to write lists myself, so I don't really, have a full vision of what things are going to look like. We can all see like, what are good options and what are less good options straight away, but how they work together and how you fit them in a list is definitely something that's a bit different now. So I think it'll just be that skill gap where some people get it quickly and some people take a bit longer to come across. Yeah.
Agree. And of course, if you decide to do something new, it does take time to build and paint models as well. So there could be a little bit of a lag before we start getting any of that real sort of hardcore data coming in. If it is open to more abuse or not, the jury is out. I personally don't think it'll have any sort of bearing on things getting, more competitive or abused in that sort of way. So,
yeah.
Republic of Wolves. Hello, beautiful people. Hello, good sir. Do you prefer working with resin or plastic? And is one of the materials better or easier for conversions? Kieran, this is your wheelhouse. You're all over this question.
Yeah, I love me resin. I think it's easier. It's much easier to convert for me. You can scrape it and cut it much more easily than plastic. Plastic, I find, can tear, and unless you're very careful with a very kind of fine-grained sandpaper with plastic, it marks up a lot more easily than resin. I find resin easier to cut, and of course, it's much easier to bend. It has other issues. It can be brittle sometimes, but most of the time, I much prefer resin. It's my my preferred kind of medium to work in rather than plastic for sure. What about you?
I think so too. I do like my resin.
Yeah, I think it's scary for some people, but I find it much easier.
From a conversion standpoint, and if you need to, chop off body parts and stick them to something else, it's perfect for that. It's really it's a controllable medium too once you sort of get your head around it. How tools take to the substrate, so exactly what your scalpel's going to do with that pressure against resin. Whereas things like plastic can be a little bit more unpredictable. Depending on what sort of pieces you're cutting, how thick or what the diameter is that you're cutting, or reshaping in any sort of way. Obviously, if things don't sit right, you can always take heat to resin, and it's malleable, so it's a lot more forgiving in a way as well. It does. I think there's a higher baseline required to work with it. And if you were to troubleshoot problems with resin, it is, I think, a little bit more challenging than something like plastic. Warpage is a perfect example. If you were to troubleshoot warpage, that's something that people either don't have the time for, or maybe don't have the knowledge or the tools at their disposal to work through and troubleshoot those problems in a way. I mean, we're experienced enough now, Kieran, to know exactly what we need to do for how long and for why to get, a warped piece looking like it should. But all that just takes time. And I think no matter whether you are building a resin or a plastic model, the quality of your build is going to be reflective of how much time and effort you put into it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You could spend.
I just find
you could spend the same amount of hours on a resin kit as you could a plastic kit, and your end result of your build is going to be similar. So
yeah,
there's no way around the time involved, unfortunately. And like
but
you
there's a
mentioned
difference
before,
between like
with some kits like resin tanks, it is just the two sides into the sort of main chassis. Whereas with your plastic tanks these days, each side could be comprised of 30, 40 pieces.
Yeah, they go together really nicely, but you need 2 days to assemble them. Like, it's insane. Like, and resin, just like if you cut a piece of resin, it cuts true. It's a clean cut. If you cut plastic, it deforms. The blade pushes it and moves it. If you drill
Yep.
plastic, it warps as well. Whereas resin is just, it's a more brittle and like solid like substance. So it takes the blade and the drill a lot better, and it's just, I find it far more reliable. Like if you're trying to cut like a tab off a plastic model, it can tear and rip a piece out of the model that you don't want to damage. Whereas if you cut with resin, it's just straight through. It's not going to tear like that unless you make a massive mistake and just are far too brutal with it. So yeah, resin all the way.
Jose Norris and Crusoe, the most handsome man in Heresy. How do you guys feel about Dreadnoughts, considering the stats and rules they've got in this edition? Jose, I'm going to be real with you, man. It doesn't bother me that much. I am a little bit disappointed that the weapon skill and ballistic skill 4 stats of the Dreadnought don't represent the fluff of the veteran inside the Dreadnought as much as what they should these days. But gaming-wise, it seems to be a little healthier for the game. Everyone knows that Dreadnoughts were incredibly powerful last edition. However, in first edition, everyone used to run a Quartus Contemptor anyway. That was weapon skill and ballistic skill 4. So, I'm not really sure how much will change as a result of the stats decreases on the Dreadnoughts this edition. Kieran, do you have any other thoughts on that?
I think they're much harder to get into your list now because it's only a single choice per detachment.
Yes.
Unless you're taking logistical advantage, which means you're missing out on fun prime rules like Paragon of War, they're going to be much harder to get into your list. I was writing a list last night and I struggled to get more than a single Dreadnought into my list. So it's just like, you've got to sacrifice in other areas or bring like a boring generic Centurion with Line Officer 2 and like, logistical advantage. So I think they're definitely more difficult to get into lists now, which I suppose is a good thing. It stops abuse. But that combined with the fact that they've been toned down quite a bit with the BS 4 and 5. BS and weapon skill 4. Bit of a double hit for me. So I think they're definitely not an auto include now for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they do get the double hit. All right, Kieran, let's go back to the mailbag and we'll see if we can quickly fire through some more of our items here.
Yeah.
Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I've got an important one here from an anonymous sender. Why does Adam always play the whack legions? Thousand Suns in first edition and Salamanders in third.
Give me a break. I can bet money I know who that is. And when you see him next, I will slap you for being an absolute smartass. Get out. Let's get back to some proper questions. Waste our time, Brod. All right. The books. One of these says the books will get invalidated every 3 years now. What are your feelings of Horus Heresy as a game? And this is one we kind of touched on before, isn't it? So, I've got my reservations on whether it is in fact a 3-year cycle or not. I'm hoping that it's not. Kieran, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I do hate it when my PDFs get invalidated. I've always assumed that we're going to a 3-year cycle, but you've given me a little bit of hope there, so I'm going to just cling on to that hope that the game is the game now, and we're going to get small updates over the coming years, and we'll have a nice long cycle for this edition. But I think that might be a little bit of wishful thinking, but you've given me hope.
Positive mental attitude, okay? Fire us one back over the net, Kieran.
I had someone asking, how do we paint our gold trim? Do you have a gold recipe that you always go to?
Well, funny you say that, because I've got a whole bunch of tutorials that I'm doing at the moment on some gold trim. However, and the step-by-steps on that will be coming on our Patreon tutorials. However, if I can talk about the paint for a minute that I use for the trim, I've been pretty much exclusively using scale 75 metallics for a good long while now. And the reason for that is I just like the color range that they've got. They always seem to create really interesting golds, bronzes, even just like really strange metallic colors like turquoise and pinks and moonstone, amethyst sort of colors. And I think it's great for experimentation. And I think where, true metallic metals and gold can sort of get a bad rap because a lot of the time it looks a little bit too simple and too boring. So I like to sort of spice it up. And I think that color range has served me well for the last 5-6 years, because I always seem to find new fun and interesting sort of ways of painting gold and bronzy sort of trim within that color range. Yeah. What do you think, Kieran?
Well, Absolute Moon Man has just pointed out scale 75 decayed metal is the absolute favorite metal color, and that is a big part of my gold recipes. And decayed metal and elven gold. I also use a bit of Vallejo. I like their metallics range. I find that really useful for not just airbrushing, but for undercoating like silver metallics. And then I go back in with like Vallejo model and air colors and paint the details on afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, for my golds, scale 75 is the one. There's a tutorial for that in my highlights on Instagram that people can find. And I'll also be doing a more detailed and in-depth version for the Patreon coming up as well.
Beautiful. How's this for a question from the powerful anvils of Connor? Which character is most overdue for a release or an overhaul?
Oh,
good question.
That is a good one. I suppose we're talking about like special, unique characters now. I think the real answer is like all the characters that don't have models yet, right? Like all the salamander characters and all
what
that
about
kind of
our
thing.
beloveds?
Yeah. But as far as updating things are concerned, I'm not too sure. Like, to be honest, most of the early kind of character series models still hold up pretty well. They were at a larger scale back in the day, so they don't look too out of place now.
Yeah.
There are a few that are a bit wacky. Like I always take the piss out of Pollux because I've always thought that that's a bit of a shit model. So maybe he could do with an update, but I wouldn't cry a tear if I never saw him again. So I'm not that fussed about him. But I think most of the early character models are pretty good. If I wanted a character model, a new character model, it'd be the ones that don't have models, I think. Like, to be fair, most of them are losing rules now, so we might never see them. But we never had a salamander special character. We never. Oh, we did finally get what's that Iron Hands bloke called? The one who loses his head, not the Primarch, the other one that loses his head.
Iron Hands bloke.
Yeah.
Magician.
Yeah, Magician. Yeah. So they finally got a character, and the Raven Guard have also finally got their character with the Moritat Lord. So I don't know. Like, do you have anything in mind that like jumps out when you think about characters that need a new model?
Um,
Oh, Abaddon.
I was about to say Abaddon.
Yeah,
And do you know what? Even Loken, I think Loken looks a bit shit.
he is shit, but I just don't care about him.
Always,
Yeah,
he always has
yeah,
looked shit and sort of like really
yep,
weedy and
yeah.
skinny and yeah, just not. He's got no gravitas, no presence.
I
So,
think it's mostly the head, that needs a new sculpt. Yeah,
oh yeah, he's got a rude head on him, that's for sure.
yeah. Abaddon just needs to be bigger.
Yeah, yeah, I do like. I still like Abaddon's armor detailing. I think it
Me too.
looks really sick, and it's still kind of understated. So it passes really well for the timeline of when that model came out. During Isfahan atrocities. So
Hmm.
the detailing looks terrific. If we can just get a new and updated version of that, I think that would be sick.
Yeah, the Sons of Horus Cataphracti Praetor is a very easy conversion for him, to be honest. But to
You
see
know
a
what?
new
He's
model for
got
him
legs.
would be great.
He's
Sorry,
got Alexis Pollock style legs.
really?
Yeah, he does. He does. I hate to say it, but he has Alexis Pollock's legs.
That's not so good.
Yeah, I know.
Got a question here from a new player. I haven't played the Horus Heresy before. What's a good starting hobby project for White Scars or Raven Guard?
Oh, mate, White Scars are in a bit of a bad place at the moment. I'm
Yeah,
sorry to break the news to you.
yeah,
It's a bit of a wait and see on the White Scars. I've got the faith that they will get a lot back in their journal, but when that journal is coming, who the hell knows?
yeah.
And what was the other one? Raven Guard, was it?
Raven Guard. Yeah.
Raven Guard. I think Raven Guard might be a wise decision. I mean, they've got great rules and
Hmm.
obviously pretty strong rules
Yeah.
on the outset, at least on paper.
Yep.
And the color scheme is very approachable, I'd say, for a new player or someone that is new, sort of getting into the hobby as well.
Yep.
Heresy does require you to put a lot of mans on the board. So
Yep.
having them black is not a bad thing at all if you're trying to churn through lots and lots of infantry, which sort of favor the Raven Guard anyway. So
Yep.
that
And
is what I'd sort of lean to.
I'd agree with that. I think White Scars wait and see. Raven Guard, I would say get some tactical marines done. Like I think with their Legion rule, tactical marines are going to be able to sit beyond that. Is it 15 inches or whatever it is? They'll be able to sit
Eight,
out of range with the 18 with their
yeah.
bolters, and then they've still got an extra 6 inches on their bolters, and they can shoot away and have a significant advantage over peer kind of units, like firing at other tactical marines while they sit on objectives and rack up those line points. So I'd say definitely get some tactical marines. It kind of ties into another question we had on Instagram, which was how do you make legions in black armor interesting?
I think choosing it would be important to choose a nice spot color. So what I mean by spot color is something that might be contrasting to the army color, which is black in this instance. But something that's going to give character to the models and something that's going to draw the eye. So some ways that you can incorporate spot colors on models. I mean, the most obvious way would be something through like eye lenses and different lenses in that way. But you can also incorporate those spot colors through things like heat blooming on nozzles to make things look interesting and just to give them a little bit of color to start tying into different aspects on your models. And then transfers. Transfers are a great way to draw the eye as well, because you've got that black backdrop. That's something that's really going to stand out as well. Do you have anything more to add?
Well, I think that's definitely true, particularly with the Dark Angels. I think they're an easy Black Legion to do, because they do really benefit from like strong secondary colors, like particularly red and white, of course, but you can also add some green in there for Caliban if you want. They have a fantastic transfer sheet, and they look really, really good with heaps and heaps of heraldry. I think it's tougher with the Raven Guard because their whole thing is stealth. So while like white is their secondary color, which is a good secondary color and shows up nicely in, weathers very well, you don't really want to go like too over the top with it. You kind of have to choose with the Raven Guard force, I think, whether you want like a fluffy kind of Raven Guard force, like paint scheme wise, or a Raven Guard force that looks like really stunning on the tabletop. I think it's hard to get that balance. I painted this Raven Guard model a couple of years ago now when they first came out, this kit, and I wanted to do something like super, super simple and very, very quick. This is probably the quickest Space Marine I ever painted. It's just rattle can black, a single kind of very dark highlight, and then I just used like sponge chipping essentially to pick out the edges in a kind of rough kind of edge highlight in a way. But what I used to add the extra definition was the weathering powder. And I used the weathering powder in all of the recesses of the armor. And I think it kind of fits the kind of rugged, kind of stealthy kind of aesthetic of the Raven Guard while adding definition to the armor without being kind of sharp, crisp kind of highlights on the armor. So I would say, look into some weathering and find like a lighter color that contrasts well with the black. I've used like a dark rust color here, but if I was to do it again, I would use like a lighter kind of sand color or maybe a brighter kind of ochre color just for a little bit more contrast. So yeah, you can, Dark Angels, easy, push those highlights. Raven Guard, if you want a more subdued kind of force, the way they're described in the books, then I think, weathering is a good way to add some interest and definition to the force.
I like the red lenses, like they really stand out, but they're also harmonious with the weathering powder color that you've chosen as well. So it all looks really well incorporated. All right, Kieran, here's a juicy one. How would you make an Iron Warriors army thematically interesting outside of artillery?
Well, artillery is obviously one thing that's very fluffy for the Iron Warriors, but the other thing is like mass assaults and like waves of tactical marines and despoilers. So personally, if I was to do Iron Warriors, I think I would do a very kind of heavy infantry force with a lot of tactical marines, probably in Rhinos this edition. You can give them Expendable 1, which is really fantastic, like a very nice rule. And then I might, add one or two, for my fire support, I would, have Iron Havocs and heavy support squads, tactical support squads. And then I would definitely have a nice big squad of either Cataphracti Terminators in a transport or a Dominator cohort in a transport. So that's what I would do. I'd focus on the infantry for the assault, the line, and the firepower as well, rather than kind of focusing on the tanks.
I think mass tactical marines would be really thematically appropriate, or even mass despoilers, because we know
and some breaches.
We know how vicious Iron Warriors are after they breach those walls, and that's in combat as well, right? And another thing that could be really fitting is maybe even adding some automata into the list if you want to be a little bit fruity. Things like Castellax and Domitars. Almost forgot the name for a second there. Could be a really interesting sort of outside of the box way of adding some more Iron Warriors flavor to the list.
allies are much easier to do in third edition. There's a lot more flexibility, and I haven't seen an allies chart or anything like that. So I think if you have a model in a unit that is from a different like faction or legion or whatever, the unit suffers -2 to all of its like intelligence, cool, willpower, leadership. So I think that's the kind of drawback now. But I think apart from that, like, you can still have, line units in another faction, in an allied detachment, and you're not suffering from like, them not being scoring anymore or anything the way you did sometimes in second edition. So I think, yeah, allying in either some meat sacks in the form of militia or auxilia, or some robots in the form of mechanicum would be a really nice way to add a little bit of flavor to the Iron Warriors for sure. Both
Iron
both
Warriors
routes are very fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome to see how the Iron Warriors start to progress in the Scouring as well. Obviously, because they left early, and we know about the Iron Cage and the stuff that's yet to come as well. So it's going to be really cool to see what happens with them as well. So yeah, you're in luck if you're playing Iron Warriors, I think.
And I just painted that Iron Warrior Saturnine as well, so they're pretty tasty. That's another scheme that's coming for the tutorial for the Patreon. So
Iron Warriors were my first love in 40k.
Oh man, I painted some Iron Warrior Chaos Space Marines back in the day too. Yeah.
Oh, they were the best.
I think everyone loves them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people just grow out of them. Other people don't. Yeah.
Others stay children forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any more questions in the mailbag?
Yeah, I've got a good one here. What tips do you have for maintaining focus and discipline in your hobby?
Oh, well, I might just say that you are a lot more disciplined than I am when it comes to hobby.
I'll just say,
go on.
I have a lot more opportunity than you do.
Well,
I think that's a big part of it.
But momentum is a powerful thing in the hobby.
It is. It really is.
Momentum is powerful, right? So starting is always the hardest part for me.
Yep.
And when you miss out on opportunities to sit down and paint, the momentum starts getting away from you, and then you start procrastinating because it is so hard to pick it back up again and get the ball rolling again. But for me, when I have momentum, it is easy. It's easy to come to the studio space, to sit down and to paint, even if it is for just an hour. Because I know exactly where I've left off the night before. I can come in, I've got I can set my expectation of, this is what I sort of aim to get done in the hour. If I get anything more done, it's a bonus. And I chip away at it like that. Gone are the days of sitting in the hobby chair for 8-hour periods. I miss those days. However, I just think it's a matter of momentum versus procrastination for me. Because when I'm up and going, and when I'm not, it really is. It takes a lot of willpower to get back in there. Because I feel like, oh man, sometimes I can't be as productive as I want to be. How about you?
Yeah, you're right. It is about momentum, and I do find that if I'm not consistent, I do lose focus and I go and do other things instead. And then you haven't painted for a few days, and then you haven't painted for a week, and then you haven't painted for the best part of a month. So it can be difficult. Having like a permanent place in the house or the shed or wherever you paint set up that you can go to and sit down and work at without having to pull out a whole bunch of things is obviously amazing. Not everyone has that possibility, but that's definitely something that helps. And for me, like part of maintaining that flow and that consistency is about just always doing a little bit of something. Like even if I'm not focusing on a project, like I'm not painting a heresy project at the moment. I don't know what I'm doing for third edition. I haven't decided which army or project to do yet, but I'm still painting as much as I would if I had that project underway now, because I'm just painting up random models.
That's great.
And
It's for someone who doesn't do it like that. It's
yeah,
inspiring to see, because
yeah,
I won't just sit there and paint. I
yeah,
need a purpose to, okay, this
yeah,
is what I want to execute for my army. These are the
hmm
things I need to do to get there, and
yeah,
I'm not really going to deviate from that
yeah,
until it's done.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
if I'm in that limbo stage like you are now, I'm not really painting one-offs. I'm probably planning for the next big project.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always thinking about the next project, but I need to keep my hands busy and keep working. Like, I've been painting this Argyle model that I just finished today. Like, I would never have been like, usually painted that model. I'm always fascinated by the word bearers, but I don't think I'll be starting an army anytime soon. But, not having anything else on the plate that I'm working on, that I'm focusing on, allows me to do this amazing model. Like, I didn't really kind of fully appreciate how beautiful a model is before I got my hands on it. And then, I also had the opportunity to paint up this Iron Warriors Saturnine, and
Yeah,
I've
that looks
painted
amazing.
Iron Warriors plenty of times and tried out different schemes, but it, gave me the opportunity to try something a bit different. I put a lot of green into this, into the armor, into the silver. So that's
Yeah,
just something else I've got locked away in my head now for next time I do an Iron Warrior, or next time I try a metallic scheme. Um,
yeah, he looks great.
yeah, it's always about, being busy and learning. So even, when I'm not producing units for an army, I'm practicing my skills, developing new skills that, hopefully I'll be able to use on that project when I get around to it, when I finally kind of, pull the pin and dive in.
Here's a good question. What conflict would you like to see covered in the Journal Tactica? Is there any particular conflict you're looking forward to?
I don't know. Like, there's some classics. Like, I'd love to see a journal for like Prospero. Love to see. Um, I'm really looking forward to like the drop site massacre stuff. To be honest, just to see like a bit more detail on that, get some new perspectives, some new rules. I'm excited for all of it, really. Maybe we had the siege of Cathonia in second edition, but there was also a siege of Chemos, a siege of fucking, well, there wasn't a siege of Olympia because Perturabo blew that all up by himself.
Mm.
But the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves went around destroying planets, so there's a lot of potential there for different campaign books. And there was the Siege of Inwit as well, the homeworld of the Imperial Fists. So there's heaps of potential. But to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing like more detail and more kind of having the main battles fluffed out, like Prospero and the two Isfan campaigns.
Yeah, so returning to them.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. I don't need new stuff, like completely new
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Now that you said
Someone
it,
said Moloch.
I
Someone
like
said
that
Moloch
idea.
in the chat there, GK. So that's a good call
Ooh,
as
yeah,
well.
I
That'd be
like
nice.
it.
Yeah,
You know what? You know what would be nice? A journal for the war in the webway.
that would be very cool. Yeah,
That could be sick. That could be
yeah,
sick. That's the one I'm looking
yeah.
forward to. There, I've said it.
Finally get some more demon models than just the brutes.
Here's an interesting
Bloody
one.
hell.
I've got a couple
Yeah.
more before I'm out of the mailbag. What would you guys like to see from a militia list as a Marine player?
As in what we'd like to see on the table across from us.
Yeah, I think that's what it's asking.
That's a great question. I think like variety. Like, I don't want to see an army that's like 300 T3 dudes with
Mm.
bayonets, and I don't want to see an army that's 15 Lehman Russes. I want a combination of those two. I want to see some Sentinels. I want to see some weapon teams. Just a bit of variety. Kind of, I suppose, a bit more like how I imagined Imperial Guard armies back in like 6th and 7th 40k. So just, yeah, a bit of variety, like some rounded armies, some Rough Riders, some cavalry, some Ogrins, that kind of thing. Not just like one thing. I get that like a strong theme is very attractive to a lot of people, especially that armored theme, which is cool. But as a player, for my playing experience, I like to see a bit of variety. Yeah.
I think from a aesthetics point of view, I'd love to see a militia list that has a lot of creativity, has a visual identity to it that isn't just guardsmen, or XYZ conversions of guardsmen. I understand that is incredibly hard to do across 100 odd models, maybe more. But it probably requires the greatest level of commitment, I'd say, to do a militia list. And then
Absolutely.
to have some character in the armored division as well, not just Lehman Russ's like dry brush grey or anything like that. It would be really cool to see those Imperial tanks on those human tanks given the same level of care as a lot of the Marine tanks do in the sort of heresy sphere, with your weathering techniques and your attention to detail in that regard. But yes, militia players have it the hardest when it comes to that level of detail, because they've got armies that are magnitude 3 or 4 times greater than any Marine player. So if you can produce a militia army like that, more power to you, because that would be incredible.
Yeah, that's the tough thing, right? You need to paint like way more models, and those models have got far more detail. So like you have to be a sort of like, you got to be a masochist to be into the militia. It's got to be really your thing. Like it's just, I like the concept in my brain, but I would never try and do it. Like I just couldn't do it. I couldn't paint an army like that. Maybe something like a Beastman Abhuman army that might be a little bit quicker to paint, perhaps. But
that could look unreal. But it's like, I've got hundreds of models to convert now.
Yeah.
Or
it's
Mr. Tomness with a auto gun or something.
Yeah. I've got a question here for you. It's a little bit of a silly one, but might give you a bit of a chance to talk on it. Why are the Thousand Sons the best Legion? What do you love about them?
Oh, lots. I love lots. I think as far as character goes, they've got some of the strongest visual identity that is separate from the rest of the legions. They really have a uniqueness about them that is esoteric and artistic as well. They kind of blend those two sort of things together. I think, the color scheme is terrific. I mean, any sort of color scheme that's a primary color is generally really nice to look at on the tabletop. But I think my love for the Thousand Sons always sort of started to stem from the Visions of Heresy and the old card game artwork from the very, 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 very beginning. So that's where I kind of drew my early inspiration and love for the Legion from. However, I think that the 40k counterparts are just as characterful. Like they've got two really, really strong identities in both settings, which is very uncommon when we think about Space Marines from Heresy to post Heresy. So I love both the Heresy version and the 40k version for separate reasons, but I think what they do share is that esoteric meets the artistic sort of visuals, and just the subtle nods to obviously the Egyptian influences and that sort of stuff too. Just gives the Legion more depth, I think.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the fluff, I love Book 7. I think Book 7's probably one of the best written black books when it comes to the actual story of it. And the Battle of Prospero, like there's great continuity in it, lots of information. Nothing is too vague or open to interpretation. And if you're talking about the novels, A Thousand Suns is great. It's one of my favorite ones. Even though some of the later ones aren't very good novels at all. And the fact that they do have these psychic powers, it gives them another level of depth that is independent of any other legion. So I guess you could call them a special little snowflake, and that's why I like them the most, and that's why they are the best.
Yeah, I'm a big fan as well. Obviously, Magnus is a dickhead and he did everything wrong, but like I do love the Thousand
He's
Sons.
just a dad that loves his sons. Okay, he did nothing of the sort.
Thousand Sons were also the first kind of heresy models that I worked on way back in the day in like 2007, before we had Forge World Armor Marks and before the heresy novels came out, or about that time, just based on the Collected Visions artwork. So like if I suddenly start doing whack Thousand Sons for third, this is my claim to being a fan from back in the day. Not being a bandwagoner.
Well, they were cool, bro. That's it.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. So yeah, this is obviously a CAS Space Marine conversion I did with just Tomb King bits way back in the day, 2007, and then I think 2008 or something. I did these guys, which were my Sekhmet conversions based on the artwork from Visions of Heresy, and they're pretty much just Grey Knight Terminators with lots of green stuff and again Tomb Guard bits. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Thousand Sons as well. They're a very unique legion. I think with all like all legions, the challenge is to make them still look like Space Marines and not go too far overboard, like I did perhaps back in the day. But they definitely give you a lot more freedom to play with like artistic kind of details than many of the other legions. And yeah, you're right. They are unique, perhaps more unique than any other legion. And yeah, they're very interesting. Like, there's not many of them. They're extremely powerful. They're also like cultured and wise and like, steeped in the mystical knowledge, which appeals to me. So yeah, they're not the best legion. That's obviously the Emperor's Children, but they're definitely up there.
Yep. Okay. Moving on. We've got two more.
Yep.
Show us your legal tank with the two las cannon dudes on the side. That's more a statement than a question.
Yeah, he thought that was because we spoke about the Sicarans in the last episode with having to add the sponsons in second edition, and Adam got out the power tool and manned up and dug into his tank with a power tool. But I didn't have the heart to do it, so I just got some blue tack and some sun killers and stuck them on the side of my Sicaran. So that's my second ed legal tank. Andy Hoare commented on it and said, "I'll take it. It's legal." So that's good to go.
Oh, there you go. You got the tick of approval.
That's good it. Work. That's it. Yeah.
And I've had more than two people, but also less than 10, ask me about what my salamander recipe is. So I can tell those people right now, I'm painting one at the moment for a Salamander's Green tutorial that will be available on the Powerfist Patreon, which, Kieran, will be coming very soon. Now that we've got our administrative back-end stuff all sorted.
Yeah.
We've got our documents ready for publishing. And we've got some already in the bank for you guys and very excited about. So the Salamanders one will be coming very soon.
Yep.
Kieran, that's it for my mailbag. What about yours?
I've got one more. Just someone asking for some basic tips and pointers for someone that's new to airbrushing?
Basic tips and pointers for someone who is new to airbrushing. I think the best place to start and the quickest way to learn is to get yourself into an airbrushing course.
Yep.
People like Meta's Miniatures run great airbrushing courses. I mean, depending on what part of the world you're in. If you're in the UK, Meta's Miniatures, definitely one to get on. Cult of Paint, if they're running the airbrush classes near you, I'd highly recommend them as well. What it will enable you to do is have someone there to teach you not only the control, but how to troubleshoot your airbrush when something goes wrong. And as a beginner, that is the most infuriating part. When I first got my airbrush, I thought, oh, this thing sounds like a piece of piss. Everyone's doing it. And there were no courses at the time. And I remember getting so frustrated. I just wanted to like throw the thing against the wall and never use it ever again, because nothing was working right. And every time I'd try and troubleshoot something myself, another thing would happen to go wrong. So whether that was down to the paints that I used, the consistency, the air pressure, the fact that, my whole setup wasn't assembled correctly, or if I had water coming out, spitting out of my airbrush for no apparent reason, I couldn't tell you why during the beginning stages. So to get through those teething problems, the quickest way, I definitely recommend get on the course. Other than that, stay vigilant with your airbrush. It is probably the most impactful tool that you can use when it comes to this hobby. So just stick at it. And look, I'd probably suggest investing in something that it's not entry level. If you're prepared to take it seriously, definitely get something in that mid price point sort of range as your first airbrush. That way you can rely upon it. It's not going to break down. It should still be relatively rugged and easy to use. And look, if it does blow up for whatever reason, it hasn't cost you too much. But look, that shouldn't happen. And then when you're confident, upgrade to the Rolls Royce.
Yep. Agreed. I just echo everything you said there. I was going to say, get on a course if you can. That's the way to do it. As far as like airbrush quality is concerned, I've had the same airbrush from the very start. When did we do the MKA course? Like 2018 or even earlier? So
I couldn't tell you.
I've had the airbrush for like getting towards 10 years now. Like it's probably like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And I think I've changed like a single needle or something. I think that's it. Like I've changed one compressor in that time, and I haven't had to make any other changes. So the more expensive airbrush has definitely kind of paid for itself. Like, not to say you couldn't get good results with a cheaper one, but I definitely don't feel like I overspent buying a good airbrush. And yeah, I think just trial and error as well. Like, get on a course. Like the very first time I ever used an airbrush was on the course. Like I had it packed away in the box, didn't even touch it until the day of the course. That's the first time I ever used it. And it's just been smooth sailing since then. And it's just about repetitions as well. Like you'll learn the basics on the course, and then you'll figure it out, I think, fairly quickly. If you're an experienced painter and you are going to an airbrush, it'll be pretty easy. If you're a less experienced painter, then you'll learn a little bit about paints and consistency and how they work and that kind of thing. And once you've figured out that, and you've got your favorite paints that you can trust and understand, then you're good to go. I think it's pretty straightforward from there.
Beautiful. Wow. The mailbag is empty. We've answered chat's questions. It has been an absolute pleasure tonight, Kieran.
There was one more question from someone.
Even when we do have an absolute train wreck at the start, thanks everyone for sticking around. That's what makes these so special, right?
Yeah.
You get everything.
Yeah.
You get the B-roll, you get the C-roll, you get the bloopers. and you get the primo content happening live. So
yeah,
thanks very much for that, everyone. This has been another Heresy Lodge night. Next one that we do, we'll bring on some more special guests, I think.
Yep.
So look out for that one in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And yeah, some coming announcements for the Patreon. Kieran, anything else to add before we sign out?
Not really a question, but someone suggested that maybe we could do some army kind of reviews of our forces. So I'd like to do that at some stage, like, go through your 1,000 Sons, my Emperor's Children, that kind of thing. And I'd probably also like to interview some people in the community and talk about their armies and, why they did them and how they did them and what they enjoy about it. So just a suggestion for future episodes, and maybe just comment in the leave in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in, seeing different armies from around the world, and us having a chat with their creators, and perhaps kind of give us some suggestions for the armies you'd like to see.
Done. All right. Another one. All done. Everyone out there. Chat, thanks very much. Have a good day.
Thanks, chat.
Stay hard for heresy. Bye.
Adios.
Hard for heresy.